Etude number 7 in Lennie Niehaus's intermediate jazz conception for saxophone. It's pretty intimidating, so I'm going to give it a go of going straight through, and then we'll just break it down into its phrases and try and explain a few of the things that's going on. Okay, so there's a few mistakes in there, but we'll just gloss over those. Lennie Niehaus does great music. It's a good way of getting into kind of improvisational techniques without actually doing improvisation in its own right. So you're reading this music and it sounds like absolute chaos. It's chaos. It's like something that you might hear someone just making stuff up on the spot, but he's written it down and it sounds amazing. Lots of tricks to articulation here, a lot of traps, things that are intuitive, like two, 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 a lot of groups of off to on slurs, and then a group of three slur, da da da. So that trips up a few people. But what this really is great for is phrasing, because when you have such an absolute mess of notes, trying to play from the beginning to the end is just brain explosion. You think, what am I doing? It doesn't make any sense. This is a jumble of notes. Anyway, so the trick is trying to find the phrases. Now, luckily in this particular one, Etude number 7, the first half has pretty well defined phrases. The second half is a little more undefined. There are some places where you can breathe, but they're not technically where the phrases begin and end. But maybe that doesn't matter in the context of a piece that's actually just building tension by the fact that they're just keeping the notes going and going and going. There's all this tension build, resolve. Anyway, so here we go. Here's a breakdown. Here's the beginning. Nice opening phrase. Thinking about the right notes. Anyway, so we have a 4-bar phrase. Don't be tempted to breathe after that first Mikado. Just bop, punch it, keep the phrase going, get your 4-bar phrase. Here it is again. So don't be tempted to breathe whenever you get the opportunity to do so. You really want to aim for phrases, which is why it all gets a bit complicated towards the end of the piece. Anyway, here's the next phrase. Okay, a nice little phrase by itself. Now, why is this important to identify the phrases? One, you want to know beginnings and ends, so therefore the music makes a bit more sense. The other one is just simply for practice. Like if you're practicing this piece, you don't want to try and swallow the entire piece in one go. You want to find your little phrases. So now we've got a screaming high E natural, which I can never get in tune, but here we go. No. Now, that kind of sounds like an end of a phrase. However, the music she keeps on going ba-da-da-wah, ba-da-ba-dum. But if you're practicing this at home, that's a good little phrase to play. Because the keep on going is actually quite a lot of work. So what you can hear here at this point is a great little example of tension building. They're like, oh, I'm not going to let the musician breathe here. I'm not going to let the music breathe here. We're going to keep on going, not 4 bars, but an 8-bar phrase. Actually, it's running out of breath. All right, so that was the end of the phrase. New phrase. ambiguous. It's hard to know where the phrase began and ends here. However, it's another example of Lennie Niehaus going, you know what, I'm going to ramp up the tension. I'm going to encourage them to just keep on going. There's a Mikado C. Actually, it makes sense to breathe after that C because now you got to rip into that next tension building phrase. Now there are some rests, and you know what? These are the parts where you do sneak in the breath, do baby do but you want to play it with the idea that the phrase is still going. Okay? This is not a breath and then you finish and start again. This is a breath like, oh my god, I'm just going to run for it, but I'm going to keep on going to the end of the phrase, knowing where the end of the phrase actually is. And hopefully that sounded like an end. Let's try again. You could stop there if you wanted to, if you're practicing at home. Snap a breath. Kind of a little afterthought phrase. But now, the last two lines of the piece, again, this is like a phrase that stands by itself. You can hear it. This is very improvisational. There is no tune per se. You could probably whistle this tune down the street if you want to, but in the traditional sense, there is no tune here. This is just cool jazz licks and riffs and stuff taking you through to the end. But really, to work on something like this, it's always about just grabbing 4 bars at a time, even less 2 bars. If there are notes that are jumping all over the place or things that aren't intuitive to the fingers, it's just a matter of just honing in on those. We've got some interesting articulation here. Two, 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 two. So even having to slow those phrases right down if you want to really ace those articulation or the articulation and the phrasing, it's always a good idea. The Mikados, what we got? Here's the last 2 lines again. Okay. Oh, I stuck out a tongue then when I shouldn't have. But it's 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. This is a great little mixture of tonguing and slurring here. Okay. And these are great little challenges in the Lennie Niehaus book. You can try and play all the notes on the page, but really it's about the feel of it. But of course, trying to play the entire piece all in one hit, not a good idea. Break it down into its phrases. Just enjoy the phrases in their own right, and they'll take you well on your way to, knocking off Etude number 7 to some degree.